Hello and welcome to LTC Heroes Live by Experience Care. My name is Peter Murphy Lewis. I'm the host. We started in the last week a series specializing in CNAs, and it's the whole journey of becoming a CNA. Yesterday I spoke with Rachel, who's been a CNA for a number of years, and today I'm welcome to the program Shelbie Miller. She is a certified nurse's aide at Spring Hill Care and Rehab. She's originally from Lane, Kansas, and right before we hit record, Shelbie and I just realized that we grew up and were born probably about 4 miles from each other.
Yeah,
So Shelbie, welcome to LTC Heroes, and although we haven't ever met in Miami County, it's good to meet you here today.
it's good to meet you too.
Shelby, the purpose of this chat is to really hone in on what it's like to become a CNA, why we should become a CNA in long-term care, what the training looks like, what the clinicals look like. Tell me just a little bit about yourself, how long you have been in long-term care, your path, how you got to long-term care, how you heard about being a CNA. Just open book. Let's go ahead.
Okay, so I have been a CNA for 6 months. I did the course for my CNA position through Fort Scott, where I'm currently going to school. Um, so the reason why I became a CNA was that's basically the whole setting that I grew up in. My mom was a CNA, my grandma was a CNA, and then a nurse, and then like the whole business side of working at a long-term care. And so growing up in my mom's office at work really did me in on wanting to do the same thing. So
That is a cool story. So you definitely have long-term care in your DNA. I don't think
yes.
you have much of a choice. Some people believe in free will, and we don't have to get into doctrine or the Bible or anything like that. I don't think you had any free choice. You were becoming a CNA. Do you agree?
Yeah, basically.
What did your grandma or mom and family say when you followed in the family footsteps?
um Honestly, I don't think they were that surprised. They were like, well, you've been a caring person your entire life. Like, we just raised you right.
That
Might
is
as well stick you in the field now.
that's fantastic. Did you? So how long do you plan to be a CNA? Where's your next step? I know that you're in education right now. That's how I became to meet you, is through a mutual friend who's your teacher. What's your next steps?
So I have this semester for prereqs for the nursing program and one more or two more during the summer. But I'm hoping to get my CMA license this summer while I'm taking my other courses. And then I'll be entering the 2-year program to become a nurse. And I'll probably just stay in the long-term care facilities because
So tell me a little bit about Spring Hill Care and Rehab. How big is it? How many beds? How many CNAs do you work with?
so we have 40 beds, and all but maybe 2 or 3 are being used right now. And I work with a bunch of great CNAs and CMAs and nurses. Um, Normally on one shift, there's two aides on each hall, so 4 aides together, and then 2 nurses.
Hmm.
So it's a great little facility and place to work.
So I want to give a little bit of context for somebody who is thinking about becoming a CNA, or someone who is watching this who's never thought about becoming a CNA, and they're 17 years old, or maybe they're 25 years old. I think that it can be very intimidating to think you're going to take care of the elderly. It can come off as being very, very academically challenging, that you're going to have to learn too much. Can you walk me through the learning curve? I know that you might have been a little bit less scared than I was when I became a CNA because you had it in your family. But what? Uh, let's give a little bit of context that the how hard were classes, how hard was your test, how hard were your clinicals? Can you walk me through that process?
So first off, let me just say I was very nervous. But the clinicals and the what they called the labs, which was just volunteering and going to the facility and making sure your checklist was covered, so like you knew how to do all the cares that you needed. Um, that was pretty nerve-wracking for me, but it wasn't as hard as you would think. It's just kind of one of those things on being raised on treat people how you want to be treated, and like just make sure that you're being respectful of their privacy and everything. But the classes were very quick, in my opinion. They went by pretty fast. And I actually had to take my certification test twice because I missed by like 2 points the first time. And I got really down and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to study harder. I'm going to study better. And then I went in and did it and passed with like flying colors.
That's
So I
amazing.
think the first time I just got in my head and was like, I don't know what to
I'm glad
do.
you shared that. I was terrified. I think I did like 5 practice tests before the day because I hadn't studied in so long. Shelby, I'm 41 and I feel like I'm going on 60.
Oh,
I didn't know how to study any longer. So I'm glad that you shared that. And you were a little bit vulnerable because I know other people will be as
yeah.
intimidated as you and I. But you can do it, right? You did.
Yes, absolutely.
It was in September, October.
Um, crud. I think I did it in September.
Okay, and
because I was hired by October.
how many people in your class? I had 5 in my CNA class because there's a staffing crisis. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who are thinking about McDonald's or Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why we're having this interview because we need.
I had 3, so like including myself, I had 3 kids in my class.
Which makes for an amazing environment, right? Because the teacher has tons of one-on-one with you.
Yes.
I think I asked 20 questions every single day, and I didn't feel intimidated because I felt like the teacher was my friend, and
Yeah.
she was trying to line me up for success for you.
And that's really like that's the one thing that I love about Fort Scott is it's a one-on-one. Like you get all the help you need, all the teachers there to help you pass. And like for my CNA course, it was like just a group of friends just coming together to do, long-term care. It wasn't really intimidating or anything, so I really liked that.
And the other thing that I think that is hard to understand if you're thinking about becoming a CNA, you think the difference between day 1 of a student and week 4 as a CNA working is the learning curve is sharp. But I felt like after 3 days of clinicals, I could understand 80% of what was going on.
Yes.
So the learning curve at the beginning is steep, but once you have a little bit of experience on the floor, you're ready to go. What was the biggest thing, the biggest challenge for you when you actually got into a facility, you were being shadowed, or you were shadowing someone? What was the biggest challenge for you?
I think my biggest challenge was I knew what to do, but I was so scared that if I did it by myself, I was going to do it wrong. And then I was going to be in trouble, which sounds like a little toddler, but that's my biggest fear is I'm always going to do something wrong, in which I know that leaves room for improvement. But I think my first day shadowing one of my coworkers, I was like, am I doing it right? Am I doing this right? And she's like, yeah, just do whatever you did in clinicals. Like, I'm sure you did great. And I'm like, okay, cool.
And did you I didn't have much training on like ADLs or on software. Or do you use software at your facility? Have you learned how to
yeah, we do online charting. It's like point click care or something like that. It's pretty easy.
Was it hard for you to learn about ADLs and when to do them? And
yeah, our Spring Hill and Care Rehab, it makes it pretty easy because of the software that we use. So just any second that we get, we go on there and do the charting. For the most part, if you know the resident, you can get most of the charting done, except for like I work second shift, so I do evenings. So there's like QT shifts. It's just like how they transfer, how they, do the day-to-day tasks. But and then you have their meal care. So like how they eat, how much they ate, how much they drank. I mean, that's really the only thing that you have to wait for is after supper. And then that can be intimidating because you don't want to log the wrong percentage, because then that means that they could be in worse care than what they were last week. But for the most part, everybody's consistent.
When you got your license, did you do your clinicals at the same place where you currently work?
No, I did not.
Job orientation like?
Orientation at where I work now, it was I took a week to do this I can't think of the word. But it's this website that you go and watch videos. It's kind of like doing your checklist as a CNA
Uh-huh.
when you're doing your classes. But I had for the first week, I had to go and enter onto this website and do like this whole long list to make sure I knew what I was doing. And then after that week, they put me on the floor shadowing, and I just followed at least one person around all day and got to know the residents and how they transfer, how they eat, all that kind of stuff that you need to know.
Is there anything about the orientation, because it was pretty recent, right? 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Is there anything about the orientation that you said this was really well done? If you don't have this at your next job, ask for it. Your team should implement it.
I really think everything was, really great about the facility. I know that we had the first week we had our Hoyer lift, like just freeze. Like we had no charge batteries. And so we had to like hand crank it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I feel like if we had more battery supply or something, then that would be better. But I mean, even then, like what would another facility do without the Hoyer? So I think just having your resources that you need is great.
I want to ask you about someone who has been an outstanding leader for you, and feel free to name drop them. I know when I was doing my clinicals, the person that I shadowed, his name was Robert, and I just think that he is a 5-star human being, and I learned so much from him. Is there anybody at Spring Hill that you felt has, had a lot of empathy, has given you a lot of support, and you feel is like a long-term care hero that you're really proud that you've worked under?
Well, like I said, all of them are really great CNAs. There is one person that I've been working with recently, and she's a newbie, and sadly she's not in my class, but her name is Christina, and she just started, like she's 17 and just started, and you would have thought that she'd been working there for 6 months like me. She's so with it, and it's awesome. And I just think that's amazing that she's 17, going to school full time, and is working part time. And she never misses a beat.
That's great. I'm glad you shared that, because I think what's cool about that is a lot of times someone assumes that the longer you've been in it, that means you're going to be better. To have a newbie and a rookie who stands out is inspiring, and so young as well, right? Like
yes.
I think like there are 15-year-olds who have the confidence and have the maturity and the emotional maturity to really take care of people. So
yeah, and it's amazing. I mean, you don't see that very often, sadly.
No. In terms of scheduling and shifts, how did you choose your scheduling? What kind of CNA is a CNA going to end up working 24 hours? Are they going to work 18-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts? Can you give me an idea of what it looks like for you?
So obviously each facility is different. So like with my mom still working as a CNA, she works 12-hour shifts. But for me at Spring Hill, we do 8-hour shifts. So morning shift is from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then second shift is 3 to 11. And the night shift is 11 to 7. I was lucky enough that when I went to the facility and did my hiring process, I was like, listen, like, I hope this is okay and you can work around it, but I'm still doing college classes full time. I said, so here's my schedule. Can you work around it to where I can get, hopefully 40 hours a week? And they were like, yes, absolutely. We'll get you in. They're like, we don't want you to be overwhelmed, so we'll do this for a week. And if you feel like you're overwhelmed and slacking in school, we'll cut your hours. And I was like, okay, cool. So I have more morning classes at Fort Scott, so they put me at second shift.
What is the day of a CNA look like, especially the afternoon shift? When I did my clinicals, I went in at 5:30 or 6 in the morning. So the first thing I did was, shower, 30% of the residents, move people to breakfast, check on them, those that weren't getting out of bed. What does your afternoon shift look like, an average day?
I get there at 3. We do shift change report. So we get the lowdown of what's happened, if anybody's had any falls or anything. Then we make sure everybody's doing okay. They're either in their bed, wheelchair, or doing an activities in the activities room. And then around 4 o'clock, we start getting everybody that's in bed up and ready for supper, whether that be just up in bed and if they're eating in their room for a room tray. And then after dinner, we tend to do our evening showers. And then after we get done with our evening showers, which is normally only 4 showers max, we start laying people down that want to be down. And we have our little few that are wild children and want to stay up till midnight. But yeah, that's basically all.
What for you in the average day in your work environment, what's your favorite part of the day?
Oh gosh. My favorite part of the day would have to be just any one-on-one. Like, because last week there was a resident that was there for rehab, so she's not there anymore. She went home. She was just saying how she loved all the workers and how they took really good care of her, and she just loved the facility. And she's like, when I get old, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna stay here for good. And I was like, well, I'm glad to hear that. And that just made my heart so warm because I was like, she really liked it here.
Yeah, that is neat. In terms of the perks, let's talk about you and I both live in Kansas. What is an average pay for a CNA? And then let's talk about some of the intangibles of the perks. A lot of people might think, oh, like the salary isn't the hourly wage might not be as high, but then let's talk about some of the positive things that you don't see inside of the pay. So let's start off with the pay. How many hours? What's the average pay that you know of to get started?
So I know that the starting pay is $13 an hour, I want to say. Which it just got raised up to $17. I didn't know if you knew that. I didn't until recently. So for an 8-hour shift, I'll just put it out there. I get paid like $16, $17 an hour. And most people will be like, oh, like that's not that much. Cause like my dad works in construction and gets paid 20 something an hour. But what you gotta realize is there's a lot going into that long care facility. So, in which being right out of high school, having my first adulting job, like $17 an hour, heck yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Like that just seems like a lot for such little that I do.
Maturity skills as well, learning to work with people. You're in theory kind of managing people over time. What are some of the perks people might not think about in terms of long-term care, the human side?
I don't know. I guess a lot of people I talk to, they're like, wow, you're a CNA, like you have to take care of the elderly all day. I'm like, yeah, and like if you have a big enough heart, you'll do it. Like, so what if you get a resident that's very competitive and wants to slap you all the time? Like, that's just their love language, apparently. Like, I have a resident that it's not a normal day unless she gets you. It's not a normal day unless you leave with a bruise. Like, it's just, it's fun. Like, that's how they communicate.
Do you have any specific memories of where someone's really made you smile or made you laugh? Maybe someone remembers you or they were really waiting for you to come in. Anything that stands out that you would be like, this is long-term care for me and this is the perk of being a CNA?
So recently I found out that one of my boyfriend's cousins is deaf, so I started taking some signing lessons, just simple little stuff. And my little grandma at work, as I like to call her, the one that likes to get you every once in a while, she's real quiet. She doesn't talk much, and she's really hard of hearing. And I remember one day I went into work, and her eyes just like opened. Like they were just so wide, and she like started just rambling off, and they were like, she hasn't talked all day. I was like, well, I'm glad I could get her going.
Shelbie, as we start to wrap up, I want to thank you for participating in this series because we're trying to shed light and highlight what's special about being a CNA, having someone young and having someone with such a long history, a family history of CNAs is really, really special. Is there any advice that you would have if there's someone who's going to watch this in the next couple months who's 18 or 19 and thinking like, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do something meaningful in my life? Any words of advice for why they should consider being a CNA?
You know, if you think you want to help people, long-term care is where it's at. Because I know, A, there's always going to be a need for it, and B, just to see the cheerfulness on their face whenever you do something nice for them. I mean, they're basically like your grandma and grandpa's at work. Like, you just go and it's family. And if you think that you can't do it, think again, because I didn't think I could either. And here I am 6 months later as a CNA, going on to hopefully be a nurse.
Yeah. And you stuck with it. You could have easily gotten you really could have gotten frustrated by your first exam, and you put in the hours and you came back and you almost aced it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
right?
And having a good support system really helped.
Yeah.
So,
well, Shelbie, thank you so much. I look forward to talking to the rest of your team, and thank you for participating in LTC Heroes Live.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.